Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie. Merry Christmas!
Yeah, Merry Christmas. I was going to say that. Today is December 25th, so Merry Christmas to all of you. I'm not really sure if you have the day off today or not. Maybe it is a national holiday. Not for Christmas. It might be for some kind of political holiday or something like that.
Well, we used to have Constitution Day in Taiwan, and people would get the day off. It just happened to be on December 25th, and then they took it away, so... No, it's not a day off for people.
Yeah,
but
somebody told me they brought it back, or it's a holiday again. I'm not quite sure, but these things always change all the time. It's so hard to keep track. But
depends who's in government, right? Which party
exactly.
is
It's very
in government?
political, indeed. So it doesn't really matter because today is Christmas no matter what.
Yeah.
And so today we're talking about Christmas, and specifically we're talking about something called the Christmas Crew. Okay, that doesn't really exist. That just happens to be the title of our article for today. A crew is just a group of people that work together on a ship or on a plane. You might hear about the flight crew on your flight from Taipei to, Hong Kong or whatever. That would be the crew. Don't call them the crews. They are the crew. That's a group word there talking about the whole crew, like the audience. Or like, what's the other word? The family or whatever. Don't say families. That's weird. But in any case here, this is the Christmas Crew. We're talking about the faces of the holidays, different kinds of characters associated with Christmas, like Santa Claus and other ones, which we'll get to as our lesson continues.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to find out some of these figures have been in particular cultures for a long time. We're going to find out the stories behind them. So stay tuned. We're going to read through today's lesson. The Christmas Crew. Meet the faces of the holidays. As December arrives, cities transform into glowing wonderlands, and streets come alive with music and laughter. Yet Christmas wouldn't be the same without its fascinating cast of characters. These figures, each with their own unique narratives and characteristics, contribute a magical essence to this holiday. From legendary saints to mischievous characters, they've shaped the way we picture Christmas. The benevolent figure we recognize as Santa Claus has surprisingly deep historical roots. His original form was Saint Nicholas, a real 4th century bishop who resided in the region now known as Turkey. He was distinguished for his compassion and generosity. One noted legend about Saint Nicholas tells of a poor man unable to provide adequate dowries for his 3 daughters, leaving them confronting a bleak future. Secretly, Nicholas visited their residence and dropped bags of gold coins down the chimney, which landed in the stocking suspended beside the fireplace to dry. This act of kindness not only rescued the family, but inspired both the tradition of hanging stockings and the idea of anonymous gift-giving during Christmas. Over the centuries, the image of Saint Nicholas evolved into the contemporary Santa Claus. In Dutch tradition, Saint Nicholas is called Sinterklaas, and when Dutch settlers brought this figure to North America, the name gradually became Santa Claus. During the 1860s, Thomas Nast, a prominent American cartoonist, portrayed Santa as a plump, bearded man in a red suit for Harper's Weekly, establishing numerous traits we associate with Santa today. Subsequently, Coca-Cola's strategic marketing campaigns further popularized the modern image of Santa in the 1930s. These advertisements were so successful that they made Santa well known around the world.
Okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about the contents of our lesson for today. We're talking about the Christmas Crew, different faces of the holidays. The holidays does refer to Christmas and New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. So a lot of times, of course, you'll hear people say happy holidays. You might think holidays, that's plural. Aren't we just talking about Christmas? But no, we're talking about Christmas and New Year's because they're so close together. So happy holidays. And yes, we're meeting the faces of the holidays, specifically for Christmas. I can't think of any characters that are related to New Year's Day, unless we're talking about Guy Lombardo, the guy who made that song, Old Lang Syne or whatever, but he's not really a character. But any case, let's begin our lesson here. It says, as December arrives, cities transform into glowing wonderlands and streets come alive with music and laughter. So, of course, in lots of countries around the world, December comes and then people know, hey, it's December. That means Christmas is going to happen pretty soon. So cities, of course, transform into glowing wonderlands. Here, Banqiao transforms into a glowing wonderland because they usually have a Christmas display in front of the city hall there. It's not the Banqiao City Hall now. It's a New Taipei City Hall. And yes, a wonderland, of course, is a magical place with lots of decorations, music, and things like that. It's mostly for kids, but of course, young people and old people alike enjoy these places too.
Yeah, there was a famous Christmas song in America that all of us learned this word wonderland in, and it's called Winter Wonderland, and it's a beautiful Christmas song. I'm sure the listeners out there have heard a version, but that's how I first learned this word. And then a pop song came out and described a guy was describing his girlfriend as a wonderland. So this word is out there. It's just magical. It's amazing. And it seems too good to be true or too good to be real. So it's kind of a fun thing around this holiday season. I wanted to mention, if you do go to Europe, you're going to hear more Happy Christmas than you are Merry Christmas. They don't really say Merry Christmas. They say Happy Christmas, which I always thought was weird. But you know what? Cultures are different. Even though sometimes two countries will speak the same language, our culture is not the same. We can say that about the UK. And then the UK has lots of different cultures within it.
They do. The Scots, the Welsh, etc., etc. And, of course, we've got all these things going on, these glowing wonderlands, Christmas lights, music, and stuff like that. Yet, in addition, still, Christmas wouldn't be the same without its fascinating cast of characters. So still, we need to talk about these different characters, or people, basically, or roles that people play. They're kind of fictitious, of course. These people don't really exist. They're kind of like cartoon characters or whatever. So we've got these characters that make Christmas what it is. And we wouldn't have Christmas without these particular characters and these figures, each with their own unique narratives and characteristics, contribute a magical essence to this holiday. Okay, so of course, I'm not sure if I should mention this right away, but I'm sure the character that you're all thinking of course, is that big fat fella in the red suit with the white beard and stuff like that. But yeah, he's one of the characters, and there are some other ones that we're going to talk about in our program today.
We sure are. When you talk about characteristics, you're talking about certain traits of people, special qualities they have that make them special or different or unique from others. We'll often talk about characteristics of a certain type of music or some sort of art. We could use it that way too. That makes it different and makes it stand out, its features or qualities. Also, when you talk about narratives, you're just talking about the stories behind them. That's all that word means, is a story. Whether it's true or not is another question. So they all contribute this magical essence or this certain feeling to something. And it makes, the holiday fun. We've got legendary saints. If you're legendary, you're very famous. Or maybe you're someone who's been admired for achieving a lot. Some of the legendary stars in music happen to be people like Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson. I can't name any Asian stars because I'm not as familiar with your music, guys. But you've got also mischievous characters. If you're mischievous, you kind of like to cause trouble, but it's playful. It's not being really naughty. Naughty can be kind of playful too. Actually, it depends on what people are doing, but you're playfully causing trouble. A good word, if you're in England or the UK, would be cheeky. Someone's really cheeky. You're kind of being mischievous, or a little stinker, as my mom would call us. Oh, you little stinkers. Yeah.
Mischievous characters. Some people say mischievous, but that is incorrect. But be aware that you might hear people using this word. It is commonly misused, but mischievous is correct. They're kind of naughty, playful, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And yes, indeed, they kind of shape the way we picture or we imagine Christmas. And here in the next paragraph it says, the benevolent figure we recognize as Santa Claus has surprisingly deep historical roots. Okay, so if someone or something is benevolent, that means they are harmless, they're very nice, they're kind, they want to help people, they're generous, etc., etc. And of course, we all think that Santa Claus is a really nice fella. He comes around every Christmas and he gives presents to all the little kids. I think he also gives bags of coal to kids who are not so good, but I think most of us think that he's a nice guy and brings all these presents for us. So he's benevolent. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, but he's fake. Oh, don't let your kids listen to this program if they believe in Santa Claus. That was such a sad day for me when I discovered from my cousin, who was a little older than me, that Santa Claus was not real. I didn't believe her. But we love Santa Claus because he's attached to Christmas, and usually kids receive gifts from Santa Claus at Christmas time. We're going to talk about his roots, though, where he came from. It says here he has deep historical roots. His original form was Saint Nicholas. A saint is something that they use in the Catholic Church. A saint is someone who has done, wonderful things and helped other people. And when they die, the Catholic Church likes to recognize them. So Saint Nicholas was from the Catholic religion, actually. He was a 4th century bishop. A bishop is a particular level in the Catholic Church. He's a religious leader. And he resided in the region now known as Turkey, which we all grew up with calling this country Turkey. But now they've told us they want Turkey, so you've got to learn Turkey now.
All right. And of course, turkey is a common bird that is eaten during the holidays. I think it's supposed to be some kind of quail or something. The word turkey was misused to name this bird or whatever. But in any case, that's what we call turkey, 火鸡. They call it something different in other countries, but we won't get into that right now. But in any case, to reside just means to live in a certain place, and he lived in what is now known as Turkey. Now, he was distinguished for his compassion and generosity. So far, he sounds like a pretty good guy. He sounds like he's very benevolent. He's known for his generosity. Generosity is the state of being generous, which means you're willing to give people other things. You don't really expect things in return. You're just really nice and you give things to other people because, hey, it makes you feel good and it makes other people feel good.
Yeah, generosity is the noun version, but generous is the adjective form. It's nice to be surrounded by generous people. I think the people in Taiwan are very generous. He was distinguished or known for his generosity. If you're known for something, people kind of attribute you with certain characteristics because you're famous for them, or people look up to you and admire those characteristics. Compassion is you feel a lot of sympathy and empathy for people who need help and are looking for others to give them a hand up or a leg up. As we say, you're trying to help them overcome some hard times. One noted legend or very famous story that's been passed down through time about St. Nicholas tells of a poor man unable to provide adequate or enough dowries for his 3 daughters, leaving them confronting a bleak future. A dowry was something that fathers would have to give to the husband of a daughter to get her married off. They couldn't just fall in love and get married. There had to be some sort of bribe, I guess. But dowries were usually money or land back then. And this poor father didn't have enough money or land or any possessions to give to future husbands of his daughters. And so if you didn't have a dowry, sometimes you were unable to get married back then, unless you were gorgeous. And then you would always find a husband. But it was very sad back then. That's how the women had to live. Now, it left those ladies confronting or facing a bleak future. Bleak means without hope in the future. It's very dark ahead. So it was kind of sad for this poor man. That's what he was facing when St. Nicholas came to his aid.
And we'll come back in a couple of seconds to continue talking about St. Nicholas. But right now we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是 Patrick. 今天讲解的是 The Christmas Crew, Meet the Faces of the Holidays. 大家对圣诞节都不陌生，就像讲到中秋节，大家就想到嫦娥；圣诞节大家会想到圣诞老人。不过，除了圣诞老人，在欧美还有其他耳熟能详的人物跟圣诞节有关，答案就在课文里，我们一起来找答案吧。好，那请同学呢看到第一段的第一个句子，开头这两个句子可以让读者产生视觉、听觉的联想。在12月的时候家家户户都会有圣诞灯饰闪闪发光，所以才会说 glowing wonderlands 发光的仙境。那后面这里 streets come alive 就表示呢，整个都市街道充满了活力，因为处处可以听到圣诞音乐。好，那接着我们往下看，看到第二个句子 Yet Christmas wouldn't be the same without its fascinating cast of characters. 好，其实有很多人物是跟圣诞节有关的，这是既定的事实。我们说如果没有这些人物故事的话，好，那这当然是假定啊，因为事实上就是有，所以我们要用假设语气，用 wouldn't， 好，用 would 这个助动词，再加上呢后面用原形。好，第二段的第一个句子 The benevolent figure， 好，请看到 benevolent 这个字，前面的 B-E-N-E 是拉丁文字根，表示 well。那比方说像 benefit 好处也有这个字根啊，所以 benevolent 是仁慈的、乐善好施的意思。再来，请同学看到第三个句子 He was distinguished for his compassion and generosity。 这里请同学把 distinguished for 画起来，这里意味着呢，因为某种特质或成就而闻名或受到尊敬。那我们举个例子来说好了，现在全世界讲到台湾，大家就会想到什么？半导体，或者说呢，讲到半导体就会想到台湾。台湾是因为半导体这个产业而出名的。那我们说 Taiwan is distinguished for its achievements in semiconductor research and development. Taiwan is distinguished for its achievements in semiconductor research and development. 那台湾呢，因为在半导体的 R&D 方面有很多重大成就而非常出名。好，那再来呢，请同学看到第四个句子，这里的 leave 不是离开的意思，而是造成。那因为呢，就是有一户人家里家境比较没有那么好，可是女儿要出嫁需要嫁妆怎么办呢？没有钱可以买嫁妆，那这样子就让他们的前途暗淡无光。所以我们后面原本是 which leaves， 这个 which 代替前面一整个句子。那这样这件事情，没有钱给女儿办嫁妆这件事情，造成这三个女儿怎么样呢？ A bleak future， 那前途暗淡无光，用的形容词是 bleak， 它的相反呢就是 a promising future。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. Again, we're talking about Christmas characters, characters or people or figures or people who play roles that have to do with Christmas. Again, they're mostly fictitious, but we are talking about one that sounds like he used to really exist, Saint Nicholas, and that, of course, is who Santa Claus is based on. But again, he resided in Turkey, or what is now Turkey, and he was generous, and there was one legend about him in which he helped out a poor guy who did not have enough money to pay the families of his daughter's boyfriends or whatever. Didn't have enough money to pay the dowries for his daughters, and so they had a bleak future. They were confronting that bleak future. Oh no, we're never going to get married because my dad doesn't have enough money to pay us off to some other family.
Yeah, so it would have been very bleak for these ladies. No hope for the future, happiness, and a family. So this is part of the legend. Now, remember, legends aren't necessarily true. You'll hear part of this story that is not believable, which is kind of fun. It says secretly, Nicholas visited their residence. Their residence is their home, and dropped bags of gold down the chimney, which magically landed in the stockings that were suspended beside the fireplace to dry. Now, a chimney goes straight down. How these gold coins suddenly jumped up and fell into the stocking that was hanging to dry by the fireplace is the mystery here. So I kind of laughed when I read this. Obviously, it's a legend. This couldn't happen. But he may have helped the family out by giving them some coins, but they certainly weren't magically dropped into the opening of a stocking that were suspended. Suspended just means hung to dry, hung up. They're not, the bottom of that sock is in the air. Okay, it's just suspended from the top of it. And now that's why today, at least American families and some European families, they'll put up stockings, Christmas stockings, which you guys sell here in Taiwan at Christmas time. We'll put them up on a mantle or by a fireplace. We had a fireplace when I was growing up, so it was there that my mom would put up the stockings for Santa to stuff on Christmas Eve night. But this is supposedly what St. Nicholas is known for, why he was so generous and compassionate to this poor family.
Yep, and that's probably where their legend came from of Santa Claus going down the chimney to go into the living room and put presents under the tree and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A chimney is a passageway or a kind of pipe where smoke comes up from the fireplace. They're usually in houses, okay? If it's a factory, that would be called a smokestack, but in a house, it's a chimney. And, of course, lots of houses in northern countries have fireplaces where they burn wood and you can keep warm during the winter. And they would dry their stockings next to the fireplace because they'd probably get wet during the winter from walking around outside. Now, this act of kindness not only rescued the family, but inspired both the tradition of hanging stockings and the idea of anonymous gift-giving during Christmas. So, again, this was an act of kindness from a very generous person here, St. Nicholas. Of course, again, he dropped those gold coins down the chimney, and that is an act of kindness. So it rescued the family, and it also inspired some new traditions. To inspire something means to give somebody an idea because you saw it and you thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I'd like to do that myself. Like if you're a painter or something, you might go to some kind of museum or something, maybe the Palace Museum or something, and you look at the old Chinese paintings there, and you might be inspired. Boy, I'd really like to improve my calligraphy or take up painting or something. I'm very inspired. And yes, indeed, these traditions here or these acts of kindness inspired other traditions of hanging stockings, as you described, and anonymous gift giving. Anonymous means people give gifts, but you don't know who they're from.
Right, which is the best way to give gifts, I think, if you can give something wonderful to someone without them knowing. Then they don't feel obligated to return a gift. I know that's kind of the culture in Taiwan, that, you know, if you're given a gift, then you have to give one back. But it's kind of nice just to give a gift and not know who you know, the person receiving the gift doesn't know who they can return the favor to. It's kind of cool. So that's what anonymous means. A lot of people will donate money anonymously to different charities or maybe to schools or people who are in need. I think that's wonderful. So over the centuries, it says the image of St. Nicholas evolved or changed over time into the contemporary big fat Santa Claus that we know today. And our Santa Claus is so chubby, there's no way he could go down a chimney. In fact, I remember a little boy, he was only 4 or 5, asking me how that fat man would possibly get down the chimney. And I said, it's because he's magic. That's how. So in Dutch tradition, we're going to go to a different part of the world here. St. Nicholas is called Sinterklaas. Where are the Dutch? Well, those are the people that are in the Netherlands. And we use Dutch to talk about their language, but also the people themselves. They've got a sort of a different take on Santa Claus, don't they, Tom?
They certainly do. So they've got this word called Sinterklaas. And we've got Dutch settlers in North America. Hey, that would be my ancestors. They settled in various parts of Michigan and Iowa and other places like that. And when the settlers brought this figure to North America, they, mingled with other people and they kind of changed things around. And eventually, this particular figure became Santa Claus based on the Dutch word Sinterklaas. And the rest is history.
I love to hear how we got some of these figures or characters that we put into our culture. So during the 1860s, this is in America, Thomas Nast, a prominent or successful, well-known American cartoonist, someone who draws cartoons is a cartoonist. Back then, they were mostly in the newspaper. He portrayed Santa as a plump, bearded man in a red suit for a very popular magazine called Harper's Weekly. Harper's Weekly had a lot of fun cartoonists and also artists who put their art, and stories were published in there as well. If you portray someone, you kind of show or describe what someone's like. It could be in art or in writing, but also if you are an actor, you are portraying someone in a film or on stage by pretending you are that person.
Right, and he's described as being plump, which is kind of fat.
But it's a nice way to say fat.
Yeah, you could also say chubby as well.
Yeah.
And he's bearded. He's got that white beard because he's old. And he's got that red suit and that belt and those boots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And subsequently, after that, Coca-Cola's strategic marketing campaigns further popularized the modern image of Santa in the 1930s. I think most of us know this. Coca-Cola got a hold of that image of Santa Claus, and they thought, hey, let's make this commercial. So if something is subsequent, that just means something that happened after something else. So subsequently, after that, after what Harper's Weekly did, Coca-Cola came up with some advertisements that featured Santa Claus that looked like that, a kind of plump guy, an old guy with a white beard and wearing a red suit and stuff like that. They had advertising campaigns, which is a series of advertisements in magazines, newspapers. Back then, it was probably on the radio, not on TV so much, and that popularized the modern image in the 1930s. I guess TV was around in the 30s, I guess, at that time. But yeah, Santa Claus was seen by a lot of people at the time as being the big fat guy we described.
I think rather than on TV, they were seeing it in newspapers and magazines. Magazines would print in color, but not many people had a TV in the 30s unless they were very, very rich, perhaps. So these advertisements were so successful that they made Santa well-known around the world. We use campaigns in different things. We use them to market products or to advertise products, but we also use them to gather I guess get people excited about certain things. Maybe there's a campaign to clean up the parks by your government. They want to motivate people to go and clean up the parks or clean up the beaches. Or maybe there's a political campaign where someone wants to be elected to office. So they have a lot of actions or series of actions, as Tom said, to reach a certain result. So, of course, Coca-Cola is not stupid. They use that cute fat man who represented a wonderful, joyful time in people's lives to sell their product. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And these advertisements were so successful that they made Santa well known around the world. So this is the so that pattern here. Because they were so successful, Santa became well known all over the place. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
好，再来我们就看到第三段咯。第三段的第一个句子哦，那当然这些故事传说过了好几百年后，之前那个大善人的形象呢，越来越具体了，那也有一些转变，有了现代的版本。好 ，evolved into， 好，原本呢那一位 Saint Nicholas， 他的这种形象呢，就变成了后来我们现代所知道的 Santa Claus。Evolved into， 那就是演化、演变、转变成怎样。好，那再来我们看到第三个句子，大家都会觉得说圣诞老人长得像什么样子啊？我想现在我们心里面的样子其实都是受到呢某位这个卡通画家的影响哦。好，这位卡通画家是谁啊？美国的 cartoonist， 非常的有名 ，very prominent。请看到第三个句子。他在1860年代的时候呢， 把 Santa 画成怎么样 ？plump 就是体态丰腴的样子，而且有个胡子。好，那后面当然呢，我们会觉得圣诞老人有哪些特征特质都受到了他的影响，请继续往下看 establishing many traits， 这里的 traits 指的就是特征特质。好，那再接着往下看到第4句 Later, Coca-Cola's strategic marketing campaigns。好，可口可乐推出了很多的行销的相关的文案啊、广告等等。那其中这个 Santa 的形象也出现在他们的行销案里面，有助于 popularize the modern image of Santa in the 1930s。这里的 popularize 就是动词是及物动词，是指让什么东西变得很普及，或者让它广为人知的意思。整句话就是在讲可口可乐的行销活动，让现代圣诞老人的形象更普及、更深入人心。好，以上就是我们针对今天课文内容所做的中文讲解。I'll see you next time.
Before we sign off, I wanted to wish everyone a happy day off. Even if December 25th isn't officially Christmas holiday, we get to take the day off because it's now Constitution Day again because of government policies. So we hope you all enjoy. And for those of you out there that celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful Christmas with your families. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom. Goodbye
Bye.
and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.